And we are. I'll hand it off to you guys.
Perfect. Hello and welcome everyone to Purpose Centered Marketing with the Marls Collective and Pursuit of Purpose Nonprofit Consulting. Marlisa, is there anything you'd like to say to bring us in?
Yes, happy Friday, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know it's the end of the week. Everybody's ready for the weekend. And then, hopefully you have a short week coming up next week. So we appreciate you spending time with us, whether you're watching it now or later. So we're excited to share kind of our experiences, a little bit of our story, and help you tell yours in a better way. So, Martin, you want to go to the next?
Absolutely. So, about us. So, the Marls Collective is, you can see here, it's me and it's Marlisa. We are a full service consulting agency. We focus on branding, marketing, and communication strategy, primarily with small micro businesses as well as nonprofits.
Yes, and a little bit about our background is that we both come from the nonprofit industry. So Marley is still currently working in the nonprofit sector. I just left the nonprofit sector a few months ago. And before that, I worked in corporate. So together we have almost 20 years of experience working in different facilities and telling stories of different capacities. But we really have a desire for telling everyone for helping people tell their story, which is a big part of the nonprofit sector, is really getting people engaged with what you want to do and how you want to do it, but telling them the stories to showcase the impact of how they can help make that happen. So we're excited to kind of share some thoughts, ideas, and takeaways we have on purpose-centered marketing. And we're excited if you decide you need services or advice or just want to kind of book a consult with either ourselves or Melissa to kind of help move you forward and see where we can help you grow from there.
Absolutely. And I think, one of our passions is really just providing the tools that you need to tell your story in the most authentic and impactful way possible. And you'll see at the bottom of this slide here, kind of our main services that we provide are content creation and strategy, brand design and story, as well as brand elevation consulting. And we will show you a case study, a bit of a look into our world in our next slide. Oh, actually, that's going to be after this one. Excuse me.
I'll take this one. So one of the things Marlon and I talked about when we were kind of working out what we wanted this conversation to look like as far as like a loose structure was really getting down to the brass tacks of what purpose is. I know as far as like as adult human beings, we kind of get bogged down about, oh, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Especially in your early 20s, you feel kind of lost because people just assume you know how to adult now and you don't. So we went back to the brass tacks. Since she's on this call, I can mention my mom, one of her things that she used to do when I asked questions, because I asked a lot of questions, was to look it up. Now the world is Google, but it used to be pull out the encyclopedia, pull out the dictionary, read a book, figure it out, and find out what it means. So that is what we did with purpose. And one of the loose definitions we found that we felt could relate to a lot of people was purpose is the reason for which something is created. For you, that may be your business, your organization, the lifestyle that you live, all of that. So synonyms for that can be motivation, your intention, your goal. And so what we are doing is taking the principle of purpose, i.e. the reason why you've created your organization, and centering that in your marketing. And so purpose-centered marketing is really just a strategy in how you center your external communications, i.e. anything outside of your organizational bubble, and the efforts around your cause that align with your core values. So we are not here to tell you what your values are. We're not here to tell you exactly what your purpose may be, but to kind of give you ideas and, cheat code, Marley put it in the graphic. It's your vision and your mission statement. Your mission is your why, and your vision is kind of like your how, your end game, your goal, what you would like to happen because of the work that you're doing today.
Absolutely. And this is what I thought was the next slide. So this is a client story. This is the amazing Desiree Danielle. She is a photographer. she's a lot of things, actually. A videographer, entrepreneur, stylist. She's absolutely incredible, and also a close friend of Marlisa's. Um, and you can talk more about kind of that experience if you'd like, but just to run through it,
Yeah.
basically, we provided a branding audit for Desiree to kind of take stock of her brand statements, kind of, her vision for what she's trying to do. And we helped kind of provide a framework for her to understand that she was ready to pivot in a different direction. She wanted to really align herself with her purpose. And she narrowed down her target audience, sold her studio, and is thriving as part of our collective of referrals.
Yes. So Desiree's story is so colorful because she's done so many things. Like Marley said, she's only on the cuspice of all of the talents that she has. And I may be biased because I'm her friend. I jokingly tell people I am her manager. Joke, not a joke. But she's also can sing and paint and draw and dance and all of, like anything artistic. She probably has 10 times more talent than most people have in their pinky. But for the last over a decade, really, Desiree has been a hairstylist. She's been a cosmetologist. She's done some makeup, but she's always had an innate love for photography. She actually did work for a popular photography studio at the time when we first like we're transitioning out of college and had finished undergrad and didn't know what we wanted to do with our lives, and she hated it because it was just sales based. It was about selling packages and upselling packages and focusing on how many sales you can get, not the story, not the families, not the portraits, not the art. And it kind of dissuaded her a little bit. So she just focused on hair. And for the last couple of years, really, she's been toying with the idea of letting hairstyling go as her primary function, and she didn't know how to really put herself out there as a photographer. She didn't study it in school. She hadn't studied under anybody. She didn't have a mentor, but she knew she wanted to do it. And funny enough, she took my graduation photos for college, so I don't know what she was talking about. But one of the things she came to us about was like, I don't know how to pivot. I don't know how to not be Desiree, the the hairstylist. I don't know how to showcase myself to people who are coming to me not to do hair. And so one of the things that Marley and I talked about when we were auditing her was when we looked at her social media, we looked at her website, and we looked at her testimonials that some of her clients that she had already shot had given her. It was that she was the key ingredient because she had experience with working with people in such intimate settings. She had the ability to make your shoot so personalized and intimate and safe. She, no matter where she is, she provides a safe space and a listening ear. And I think that is the key difference. She didn't come to you with, okay, this is the only way I shoot. This is how it needs to look. This is the exposure I use. She didn't get really technical. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm breaking up a little bit, but she didn't get really technical. And she really just kind of came to you as you wanted, with what you wanted, asked you a few questions, and really helped you lead the session. And so through that, we asked her a couple of questions about, well, what is your mission statement? What do you want to do with your photography? And she was like, I want to help female and women entrepreneurs tell their story. And I was like, oh, well, we can relate to that. And so what we did was really break down how her brand made people feel. Because she, as you can see from just this portrait, she loves color. She's a colorful, fun person. And that's what she needs to lean into. So what we did was kind of give her a um, strategy for her content that could help her lead into a female entrepreneur audience. And because she's worked with so many different people in different industries as a hairstylist, she already had a built in network. She just needed to utilize them in new ways.
So just some takeaways from that story, that we hope you take away from this is that when you're centering your purpose, when you're reflecting on what your vision, your mission, all these things, you have to understand that it is a process, and it's not always going to move in a straight line. Sometimes, you're going to be in an industry for a long time, say you're a hairstylist, and then you realize that your passion, your purpose. You know, the reason that you called to be doing the work you are doing is to, you know, tell people stories in a colorful way. And Desiree does an amazing job of, you know, all the things that Marlisa has just said, but she absolutely, and I can speak from experience because she shot our brand photos, does an incredible job of just making you feel so empowered and to trust yourself and to feel really really just alive in your own purpose. Like because she is standing in her purpose and hyping you up, you get to feel that same energy yourself. So at the bottom here we have Desiree Danielle's website. So if you would like a branding shoot with her, please go check her out. She's fantastic. And yeah, from her story, you know, trust that the process, just trust the process. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be things that kind of make you second guess yourself, but as long as you continue reflecting and staying true to your purpose, you will end up where you're meant to be, and you will find success in the audiences that that message resonates with. And so just to kind of help the people on this call apply this personally, we came up with some reflection questions. And I know this is a lot of text, so I definitely don't expect for all of you to take out your pen and paper and start writing right now. But we do have a QR code to a blog we recently posted with these questions, as well as just kind of a contextual overview of purpose centered marketing. So if you would like to check that out, there is a QR code for you to scan.
And then one question which I didn't think of when we were working on this, but I thought of it now. The first question you could start with, if you haven't really fleshed out all of your ideas for your organization, or if you're in the process of maybe redoing your organization, revitalizing it, elevating it, whatever, is what problem are you solving? I think that is one of the things that connects both business and nonprofit, is that we're all trying to solve a problem, whether that's through a product, a service, a hybrid of both, or just providing a resource. You're trying to alleviate some problem that you see in your community, your society, globally, however, you know, whatever reach you want to have. If you start there and figure out what problem you're the solution to, the rest of it kind of works itself out. It may take a couple of days of brainstorming, maybe even a conversation with the robot, i.e. AI is what I like to call it, to kind of figure it out. But I think that is an important first step, is to ask yourself, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and kind of elevate yourself from there.
Absolutely. And to kind of, I wanted to highlight the last question because I think that it's just particularly important that, especially when you're working on a team that's more than just you, it's really important that your whole team is aligned on what that purpose is and has all the support they need to make it happen. So that's kind of where we both come in. Both of our organizations are equipped and ready to help you, you know, figure out how to bridge that gap and what gaps may exist. And so just some kind of quick tips and trips, tips and tricks for centering purpose in your marketing. And we've really essentially gone over these, but the first thing that you should do is just define your purpose, revisit your mission statement, look at your vision. Like Marlisa said, you know, find your why. What's the problem you're trying to solve in the world? What really sets your passion on fire? And then ensure that the people around you are all facing the same direction.
And then the next thing is to tell authentic stories. I know Melissa is going to expand on this on her services as well when we wrap our part up. But one of the main things that, at least from my personal experience in nonprofit, I worked in development, which is, if you're not familiar, a fancy way of saying fundraising. That's just the fancy way they say it, so people feel better. I don't know why I just say you the fundraising person, but the best way to get input and buy-in from people that I have noticed is to be authentic in your stories. You don't have to always fluff it up. You don't always have to add a lot to make it seem bigger than what it is. A lot of people like to start small and feel like it's a manageable thing. I If you are a 5-person organization, I can't honestly believe that you're saving, 5,000 people every month. That's not realistic. That's beyond your capacity. But if you tell me, hey, we averaged about 20 people that we got to help learn a new trade, or we were able to give out 10 grants this month or this quarter. That's realistic. And if you are telling those people's stories through their lens, I think that's what makes it the most authentic. That's why I was so passionate about how we marketed and communicated ourselves, because the organization I was a part of served children. And those children looked like me mostly. And the ones that didn't were still children. And I'm a big advocate for children's voices. So when we did tell stories about those children or centering an individual child, I would interview the child. I would record them on my phone or a camera, say, "Are you okay with this?" Blah blah blah. We never really used the video because they don't do right because they're kids. But I would get honest answers for them and incorporate that into quotes and content that Marley could use when she was writing the copy for it when we worked together. So I think authentic stories are really the key, because it's a heart-led service. Hopefully, if you're doing it with your heart, you're going to be authentic, and that's just kind of the main way to move into that next point of connecting with your audience.
Right, which I can take on. Oh, sorry about the train in the background. Hopefully that's not too loud. Yeah, so kind of what authentic stories allow you to do is really deeply connect with your audience, because they're looking for connection. I mean, not all of us on social media. Sometimes we're just scrolling for fun, but if we're looking for organizations to support, we're looking for people in our community who are changing the world in the way that we want to see. Giving your audience a way to engage, whether it's maybe a poll on social media, maybe it's a webinar where you invite people to communicate in the chat. Just actionable, specific ways for your audience to really become less of like a one-way communication, but a really like a true feedback cycle where it becomes more of a community. That's where you're really going to find a lot of impact in influencing and achieving your mission.
Yeah, and lastly, I am a data nerd, so I definitely am strongly for this last step, which is to measure, reflect, and pivot. Um, a lot of people get stuck up in the technical lingo of it, KPIs and analytics and reaches and impressions and blah, 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 blah. Those are quick Google searches you could do. If you don't have the capacity or the time to expand your team in that way, to have someone managing just that, just do a quick check-in, put a date on your calendar once a month, and see if what you're doing is actually working. Especially with social media and digital media, really, a lot of us get caught up in engagement, i.e., how many people are clicking on the heart, how many people are making comments, when you could be really making a bigger impact than you see on the surface. Because a lot of times you'll post something and maybe, just two or three people may show up, but those two or three people may share it in their stories. They might share it with their friends. They might show it to their friends on their phone. There's no way to measure that. And those people get to know more about your story. There are a lot of organizations and companies and people and influencers that I know of that I don't follow on social media. And I'll be like, "Oh man, I can't remember this person. Oh yeah, this is the person that do the cooking videos. Da 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 da." And I like it every time. I still haven't clicked the follow button because I'll just keep scrolling. But measure things that matter to you. If your purpose is not to be a viral social media account, don't try to be a viral social media account. Just try to be a social media account that the community you want to connect with can find and will relate to. And if you keep that as well as your purpose at the center of how you are marketing yourself, um, then you're going to be a success. You don't have to reach the whole world to change the world. So that's kind of how we like to move forward with things.
That concludes the Marls Collective's portion of this presentation. I believe Melissa has some slides to share with you all, so I'm going to stop sharing, hopefully.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. So just for everyone's wherewithal, we will have some time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to um, hold some questions. You can start putting them in the chat if you have them already. But I am really excited to share just a little bit with you guys. So, my name is Melissa Rivera. For those of you who jumped in a little later, I have been running a nonprofit consulting agency since 2020 called Pursuit of Purpose Nonprofit Consulting. Um, and that's me. I'll tell you a little bit more. I have a really distinct mission and purpose. Um, Purpose is a word I use all the time and not lightly. You already know the definition because of our friends, the Marls Collective. But my mission is to connect people to their purpose of starting, improving, and sustaining their nonprofit by providing resources and consultations. I really value passion turned into action. So, setting up nonprofits with support for compliance, integrity, and sustainability. Basically, my vision is um, to take you over here who maybe you have a calling on your life that you feel really impressed by, and you just really care about this cause or this people group or whatever it is, but you're kind of also not sure how to get over here to actually living out that calling and like maybe growing your nonprofit in the way that you would want to see it. And so I do things like hosting calls with people from marketing, analytics, legal, accounting, all of those kinds of things to help provide some resources. I am not the expert of everything. So creating a hub and a community around people who want to learn is really a big, important part of what I do. You'll see a picture on the left side of your screen, and this is from a client of mine. We did a fundraiser, and I was helping guide her through it. Her name is Bertha Diamond, and she is the founder of the We For Us Foundation. It's in Lilongwe, Malawi. So she was able to raise close to 100 US dollars, which goes a long way in a country like Malawi. And you'll see kind of some pictures throughout these slides, but she was able to buy a bunch of workbooks for the students so that they're able to pursue their education. She is a public school teacher, and so she sees need a lot firsthand. Um, so here's a little bit more about them. She also ran a women's empowerment group. And her first one, she had 6 women who were successful at learning a new trade. All of these women here, Bertha is the one in the white top, but she was able to teach all of them, and there's a couple of kids in the picture too, some how to sustain a business and help support their families. So I learned through working with her that a lot of times people will get married and the women will be really young girls, and then their husbands will leave them. And so they end up having multiple children and not really a way to sustain them. And it can lead to things like homelessness, and experiencing things like that is obviously really devastating, especially I can only imagine, being a mom with kids and not being able to provide for them. So what she was able to do was really be a steward of this money that she was able to get from her grants, and from her fundraising, and be able to make a really tangible difference. She leaned on her community, which I'm really big on, especially in countries and communities that are different than ours here in the United States, um, empowering them to really rally around the causes that will heal their communities. So she had different business owners donate some of their time and resources to help these women learn those new trades to start their businesses and get them started. So very cool stuff. I feel very lucky to have a small part in it. Here she is again in the school, getting ready to pass out some of those workbooks that you saw earlier. But I offer 3 things with Pursuit of Purpose. The first one is a grant writing course. I actually am getting ready to launch a grant writing cohort. I go live with this once a year for 6 weeks. It's an intensive, it's a self-paced course with live support. And if anyone is interested in that, I can send some follow-up information there. But essentially, you learn everything you need to know about grant writing, how to find a grant, where to look, how to do grant research. And then I actually walk you through your first 2 grants as well, providing edits and feedback so that you can have confidence that you need to actually snag a grant. The second thing I offer is a $97 start a nonprofit launch pad. um, I want to make it accessible for people who want to start a nonprofit. And so I know you're not fundraising a lot in the beginning. And so I give you the ABC 1, 2, 3 of how to start a nonprofit. And that one is a self paced course as well. I've got some videos walking people through things, some templates for things like your bylaws and your articles of incorporation, how to put a board together. It's really jam packed and a great deal, honestly, if I do say so myself. And then the last thing I have is a free resource. It's a Facebook group called the Successful Nonprofits Community and Resource Hub. I go live every single Friday morning from 10 to 10:30, answer people's questions, whether they've gone through my courses or not. We have people all over the world, over 100 people, and people from the United States and internationally. It's honestly such a pleasure and joy for me to be able to hear these stories and connect with people that want to do good and are just so genuine. Um, yeah, thank you for my end of things. I'm here to help make your corner of the world a better place, make it easier to run a nonprofit. There is my email and my website if you want to take a look there. And I just am so excited that you guys have chosen to be here. I will stop sharing my screen. So thank you for sharing, Jazz. You're here from Birmingham. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and pop the rest of um, the rest is sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. The rest of the agenda in here, just for those of you who are trying to track. And then I'm also going to drop the link for a Google form. So for those of you who are here, we'd love for you to fill it out and then let us know if you want any materials afterwards. We have plenty of follow-up things and resources from all of our ends. So there's the Google form. We'd love for you to fill that out. But yeah, we at this time, we're kind of ahead of schedule, which is nice. Does anyone have any Q&A? Oh, I'm so glad you thought this was awesome. Ah, you're so sweet, Martina. Makes me so happy. But yeah, feel free to come off mute or uh, drop it in the chat. I'll read them out loud, Marley and Marlesa, when things pop up so that we can answer them. So go ahead and feel free to drop things in the chat. Um, and I'll kind of just talk a little bit more to bridge the two topics while people are thinking in the chat. Um, I was so excited to invite these two to talk about purpose-centered marketing. First of all, two of the sweetest humans you'll ever meet. So feel free, like if you're thinking about working with them, highly recommend. It's been so fun just planning this, but in terms, I know we have a couple people who work with nonprofits and with my world of grant writing, that's really like I am knee deep in that, hip deep even. Um, and it is so critical. And I was on Facebook Live this morning talking about this very thing um, for storytelling and to track it. Like all of these pieces end up really empowering the narrative that you're sharing with the potential funder or a current funder, even. It's not just about getting the grant. It's about connecting with their purpose as well, whoever's giving the money and support, whether that's an individual donor or whether that's like a larger corporation or a foundation. And it's been really awesome to see people connecting in this way. And it definitely can feel overwhelming. So I'm glad that like you both actually talked about, you know, scaling it back a little, starting simple, asking a few key questions, because it really can be one of those things that is super like super intimidating to start, like especially if you're a solopreneur or solo nonprofiter and you're trying to figure everything out, like, and you're wanting to be boots on the ground. How do you also do social media and marketing? I know I felt that way when I first started. Sometimes I still feel that way, if I can be really honest. So since you guys have both had experience in the nonprofit field, I'd love to know, like, um, You know what was one like maybe faux pas that you had? Something that you're like, whoops, and that you learned from with marketing. I would be really curious to hear that because I think A, it could be really relevant, and B, I don't want to make the mistakes. So I'll pass it up to you guys.
Marley, you still thinking? Okay. Um, I'll use one example because it became a global oops. So without naming names, the last organization I was with is part of a national network. And a couple of years ago, they had a national campaign where they wanted us to have some of the participants in our summer programs record themselves answering questions, and that would be sent off for a contest where they may have the possibility to meet with a large public figure, i.e., a member of royalty over in the UK. Well, at the time. And so Marlon and I were like, yeah, let's go. So we organized with staff, got the girls recorded, and then edited the videos, like rushed it so we can meet the deadlines from nationals. And months went by and there was no response, no update. Obviously there's a lot of moving pieces because this is a global figurehead, right? So we didn't think of it that way. We were like, nationals is waiting too long. We're just going to post it on YouTube so at least the children can see themselves online and feel good about it. And that's what we did. Now, did we ask permission to do that? No. Did the royal office see it? Yes. Was there stern email sent? Yes. Did we go a little viral? Yes. Maybe I think it was like 600,000 people reacted to it on Twitter alone, and that was our lowest performing platform. So you can imagine how many people actually saw it. Because we just made a post like, "Oh, look what cute thing for this person! Isn't it cute?" And so yeah, I got a phone call from nationals to my desk. Hey girls, take that down. Oh, yeah, that was one of my biggest faux pas. I truly regret nothing, but I do enjoy the fact that I ruffled a couple of global feathers, and I'm still here to talk about it. But yeah, it was a lesson learned on making sure you communicate with all of the people before. I didn't understand the levity of it at the time. I was still semi newish. I should know better, but I didn't. But it was great. I learned a lot, and now going forward, as we did campaigns on a national scale of that nature, it was more so like, hey, let me send this through a couple of channels before I just move forward, just to make sure we're all on the same page on if we can execute it the way we're thinking about executing.
Absolutely. And I will say that, whatever end you're coming at communicating to affiliates or a national network with, just make sure that you have the same information. So like currently I work with a national nonprofit, the League of American Bicyclists, and we have routine announcements that we send out. We have bicycle friendly community awards, things of that nature. We have to inform the awardees beforehand. And in the toolkit, we specifically state, do not share this information before this specific date. And that is highlighted, bolded, underlined 3 times. So if you're coming at it from the bottom up, make sure you ask that of your national organization. And if you're coming from it from the top down, clearly communicate it. I think that's the clear takeaway. The other faux pas I thought of is, and it's a really small thing, but one time I was trying to send a post that congratulated someone on a new position. I did not double check the organization that this person worked at. So I tagged the complete wrong organization. And she was the new CEO and I was like, welcome to the new CEO of X organization. She was like, I don't work there. So that is just a reminder to double check all your leaks and just maybe triple check before you post something.
Yeah, I think that's great. We have a question in the chat from Martina saying, I know it can be scary starting your own business. What advice do you have on how to stay focused on your goals? And I can start since I know you guys just shared. So I love this question because I have to ask myself this all the time. I don't have ADHD, but I think it's close. And I would say I have two pieces of advice for that. One would be plan. Um, find a big whiteboard or get some like craft paper, put it on your wall, do a virtual whiteboard, however you like to spread things out, sheet of paper, whatever it is, and break it down into goals. So you have probably your like long-term goal. I like to work backwards and then break it into like 3 months, 1 month, and then the next 4 weeks into 4 week, 1 week chunks. So I'll do that every quarter. And then at the start of every month, I also like reassess. So kind of like Marlisa was saying with the marketing stuff, like check in, because it could be that you are totally missing the mark for a month and you don't want to continue down that path. You want to adjust what you're doing to meet the needs of your organization. The other piece of advice I would have with that, as great as planning is, I'm the kind of person who will try to cram it all in there and can be really unrealistic. So, my second piece of advice would be have a buffer. Give yourself like, I try to do like 1 week a month that is very minimal. So, like, plan out my marketing using tools like I use Facebook Meta for my like posts and things like that. And I can upload up to a month of all of my posts and captions, videos, all of that for my social media platforms. Um, and so, like this past week, I was focused on what we're doing right here, right now. And so it allows me to be really present in what I want to do. And I had buffer to work on some loose ends that, I didn't get to in some of the past weeks, which is awesome. So it's definitely like not a perfect thing, but it's like kind of a dance, I would say. Great question, by the way.
Absolutely. I feel like one of the ways that Marlisa and I stay on track is really just having a built-in accountability partner. Just making sure there's someone else who kind of knows what you're working towards, has a shared vision of what you're working towards, and is aware of the timeline that you're operating on. I think that we do try to, like bake in some buffer time, like Melissa was saying, just, you can kind of make a ideal to-do list and then kind of scale it down to a realistic to-do list. And then you can even scale it further down to a, if I get nothing else done, if I can just do these things today, that's good enough. Because I think that as women in this society, like there's so much asked of us, and it's really, really, really easy to be so hard on yourself. So I think that, building in the practice of like giving yourself space to take care of yourself is really important when you're setting your goals. Otherwise, you will burn out.
And I think to add to what Marla said, us having a partnership versus starting this solo and then coming together, I think has been the key ingredient for the success we've been able to attain so far. We're both dreamers, but we execute our dreams in different ways. I am definitely more of the admin, analytical type person, and Marley is definitely like, I am going to put all of the colors of the rainbow, and it is going to be fantastic, and it is fantastic every time. And so we really play to our strength, and that's what helps. We have a balance, but we know a lot of people start out as solo entrepreneurs, or they just kind of do what they're good at and then eventually build a business around that. And I think that, kind of like Desiree, you may have to pivot at times. But I think the fear part is just kind of for at least for me, it's anxiety, it's stress. It's kind of like I don't know what's gonna happen. It's not having control. And I think being able to, as I have been saying for the last couple of weeks to myself, is to take a leap of faith and just enjoy the fall. And then eventually you'll learn how to soar. And then you'll land on solid ground regardless, because everything in my belief system is meant to happen the way it's supposed to. And if even if that's not the way you look at the world, I think it's okay to just go ahead and do it scared, like Marley said in her slide earlier, versus not doing it at all. I'd rather live with consequences than regrets. And that's kind of how we move forward with our business. It's just like we're gonna make mistakes, we're gonna underprice ourselves, oversell ourselves, whatever. But we're gonna keep going because how else will we learn?
I love that. Next question, another great one. Um, Jazz was asking, can we expand on some of the metrics or parts of marketing efforts for companies to measure? What are some general data metrics for companies to pay attention to for us analytically challenged folks? Yes, great. I'll let you guys lead this one since you guys are our marketing gurus.
Okay. Mark, you want me to? Okay. Um, I would say just from having some experience in both corporate and nonprofit sectors, I would say the main thing, and this is kind of what I have been taking away from a lot of the webinars and sessions I've been attending these last couple of months, is to make sure you are measuring metrics that are going to matter to whoever you need to appeal to. And by that, I mean your internal stakeholders. So that could be if you're not the CEO or the leader of the organization, whoever is in your executive leadership, and also who's under you or who's adjacent to you. And that could look different for different industries, but for the main part, as far as social media, if I from personal experience know that a lot of CEOs don't care about the social media metrics unless it is converting into money, or it's converting into donations if you're a nonprofit sector, or it's converting into volunteers or whatever it is, whatever tangible resource you're trying to get. So try to display metrics or look for metrics that measure that. So, hey, we started out with only 20 people following us last year, and now we're at 200. That is 200 opportunities for us to appeal to for our next campaign, or 200 opportunities for us to get maybe 20 new volunteers this year, or whatever you're trying to do. Is taking something that can look intimidating or non-relevant, and then expressing that to whoever it matters in the way that they care about. So it's the same data, you're just measuring it differently. And then when it comes to like your website traffic and things of that nature, I strong believe Google Analytics is free. I've told all of my clients so far is that if you have not already, go ahead and claim your Google page. Make you a Google account for your business, even if you're using Microsoft or somebody else would make you a Google account, claim your page, claim your analytics, and we can work from there. And the reason why is because you need to know what's going on with your site. You need to know who's visiting it. Even if none of those numbers make sense to you, yes, when you reach out to someone like the Marls or you reach out to someone like Melissa, and we kind of help you figure out what that means to where you feel confident in expressing that to whoever you need to, whether that's funders, investors, um, employees, or whatever, because it's just like, hey, look at all this hard work you're doing because we put this here in this central location for people to find out about it. Now more people know about all the hard work that you're doing, essentially. So to keep it, very vague, I would say that. And then I think I just saw Jess put she's business to business. Um, it's just kind of showcasing to the businesses that you're working for, like, hey, your goal is 1, 2, 3. This impacts goal 1, this impacts goal 2, this impacts all 3. And this is why this is important to care about, because it's impacting where you're trying to go. If you don't have this piece of the puzzle, you're never going to have the whole picture. So.
And I'll add just a little bit to that because Marlisa is kind of our data expert, but I would encourage you to look at creative ways that you can kind of come up with metrics, in terms of, you could create a Google form that does a pre and post survey in terms of, maybe the client you're working with and their level of confidence in themselves. It could be anything. Like metrics are, they seem very set in stone because it's numbers, but the way that you approach the problem can give you really creative results, and you can shape your approach to get the metrics that you think will make the best impact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Jazz, if you have like follow-up questions, feel free to continue to drop those into the chat. Looks like that was helpful, so I'm glad to see that. Martina said, thank you for speaking on self-care. So important. I think giving yourself grace is a big part of it. How do you determine what is a good timeline for your projects when setting them for your clients and for yourself?
You know,
Kind of let out a sigh there, didn't we?
because it's hard. And I think, just the first rule of thumb is always give yourself more time than you think you need, because life is always going to life. It's always going to get in your way. And it's also, in our experience, it's going to get in the client's way too. Like, you don't need to rush the timeline too fast, because you both need some time to sit with the process. Marlisa, do you have anything to expound upon there?
I mean, that was greatly put. But I would say, just to give one last example, we have a client currently who is I can see that as far as her personality, she's kind of used to just things hustling and bustling. But in turn, she's actually not a hustler and bustler because she wears different hats. As Marla said, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's a business owner, she's this. So one of the things that she had a question about when we did our initial proposal was, oh, I thought the timeline would be a lot shorter than this. And I'm like, I don't know how you thought that. I didn't say that to her, but I was just like, hey, no, we want to give you space to sit with things. Our goal and how I like to phrase it when I'm working with clients, because I'm usually point of contact for a lot of them, is we don't want you to feel rushed. I don't want you to have, like Melissa said earlier, unrealistic expectations of yourself or of us. So what we do is kind of like, here's a tentative timeline. And I make sure I put a nice little asterisk and I say, hey, this is contingent on your feedback and your implementation. So if life is life and really hard for an entire month and you can't seem to move forward in this step of the process, okay, well, the process is not going to take 3 months. It's going to take 5. And that's okay because that gives me and Marley time to know, like, okay, well, this is how you like to work. We're getting to know you. You're getting to know us. It's a relationship. And so what we like to do is make sure that we give ourselves time for our capacity, and that's still something we're learning as well. But making sure we give our clients time to sit with it. So when you have feedback and you have changes, and Marley have to tweak something on the design, or I have to tweak something on the research part of it, then what we're gonna do is be like, okay, hey, this is what we got from what you said. Is this what you really want, or do you want to go to another direction? And I'll let you sit with it for about a week before I even follow up because I want to make sure you've had time to look at it. And most of the time, my email will be like, "Hey, are you? Do you need something else?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I got it. I've been at the beach. I've been here. I've been there." And it's like, "Oh, love that for you, girl. Let me know when you're done with it, and we'll move forward." And it's no pressure, no stakes, because at the end of the day, we can only move as fast as our clients allow us. And I think that's the same thing especially if you're doing business to business or not, or doing some type of indirect or direct service, it's going to be relying on who you're serving. So just keeping that in mind and making feasible timelines. And like Marla said, giving yourself more time than you need so that you can always surprise yourself. Like, oh, that only took 3 months. That's fantastic.
Awesome. Sweet. And I think kind of my 2 cents on this too. And if there are any other questions, we're wrapping up in a second here. So my quick 2 cents is there are project management tools that are free that also can be really helpful. I really like, I currently use Asana. There are other ones like Monday.com. So if you maybe struggle with like fighting against winging it and wanting to be organized, which I have been guilty of that in the past. We now hold grace for ourselves. So, we're improving. But for me, it's really helpful to see like I had 15 tasks for this week and I only completed 12 and I've consistently been completing only 10 to 12. Maybe I'm taking on too much. And you can see the data and the trends. And they actually put together really pretty charts and things like that for you too. So you can say, like, oh, wow, like I am overcommitting by 30%. So set your normal schedule and then, like Marley said, scale it back to about 30%, or even more, just to see you can always like add on more, which is really helpful and can feel really empowering. So I will drop that material, like the form, in the chat. Please take a few minutes to fill that out. You can do it while we're on this call. That way we all can follow up with you and give you a couple of free resources and tips, and so we can stay in touch. Thank you guys so much for coming. We really loved having you guys come. You asked some fantastic questions. And if you want the replay of this, I will be posting that. So again, fill out that form, and that way we can get it to you if you want to go back and rewatch it. So thank you so much. Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
Go
I
ahead.
just want you first, Lisa. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. And I hope it was helpful. We love collaborating with Melissa. Melissa, thank you for extending this opportunity to us, and for giving us this space to kind of have this conversation. So I look forward to following up with anybody who found this helpful, or if you have more questions and need to know more about what we do at the Marls, just let us know.
Perfect. Great. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll end like 2 minutes early, unless you guys want to stay on for another two. Yeah, I think we're good to close. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna end the recording and